A few weeks ago, I sat down with Jackie from Let's Talk Tunes
Hello, good to be back.
and we watched Goat. So, as promised, just recently we both watched Hoppers, and here's our review. Hey there, welcome back to Surviving Animation, your guide to make it in the business of cartoons. My name's Eric Calderon, and I am here with.
Hi, I'm Jackie from Let's Talk Tunes.
Today, we are going to talk about hoppers. We're going to go into the numbers. We're going to talk a little bit about the story. We're going to discuss the marketing and then ultimately decide who wins and what this has to say about the animated film industry in general. So let's start with the top. Jackie, when did you see the film and what was it like in that movie theater?
I saw the film this past weekend, so opening weekend. We actually had booked a reasonable time at like 7, but then we had to book another time because there were so many seats that were out. I was actually very surprised by that. We ended up at a 10 p.m. showing. How about you?
I saw it at 1 in the afternoon. I gotta say, I'm a little sad because Orlando is not the same kind of movie town as Los Angeles. So it was in the
Mm-hmm.
Universal City lot. It was nearly empty. I think there was about three or four other families. And at one point, my daughter even said, "Where is everybody?" And then a few people came
Oh,
in and we didn't feel so
interesting.
lonely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was an opposite experience. It was packed theaters, and we were at a theater that was. I live close to Manhattan Beach, so it's not exactly close to Hollywood, but it was still packed.
Well, I think your experience is probably the norm because let's go through the actual numbers. I have here the box office reports for both of them. So it looks like opening weekend did 27 million over the first weekend, but over the full 4 day was 35 million. And Hoppers blew that away, 46 million right off the bat. So that's the domestic
Yeah.
numbers. But if you look at the worldwide, Goat only did 41 million worldwide and Hoppers did 88 million worldwide. So I think what's really important here is actually to go over some of the breakdown of that. So obviously, Goat is a much less expensive movie. It's only 80 million on the production budget, only 80 million. But Hopper's at 150 million. And from what I could find, it looks like Hopper spent a little bit more in proportion to its um, production budget. It spent 100 million on marketing, where Goat
Mm.
spent 70 million. So interestingly, like this is where it gets vague. I mean, the Goat production to marketing is almost 1 to 1 and the Hoppers is 1.5 to 1. So actually,
Right.
percentage wise, Goat spent more marketing, but in totality, Hopper spent more.
Mm.
So if you look at the cost to performance ratio of both those films, on the opening weekend, Goat did about 0.44x of its production budget, whereas Hoppers did 0.59x of its production budget. So even with the recalculation of the smaller budget and the higher marketing spend, Hopper still wins the opening weekends. What do these
Mm.
movies need to break even? If you use the old adage of a film needs 2.5x its production and marketing budget to break even, that's 200 mil for Goat. To date, it's at 146 mil. It's only a couple weeks left in its run. And Hoppers needs 375 mil. This is its opening weekend and it's 88 ends. What do those numbers
Mm.
say to you,
Mhm.
Jackie?
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think Pixar just always has it's even if they haven't had really successful movies in the past, they still have that name recognition, and I think that's what we're seeing here with their opening weekend. It's very and again also even the production budget, right? It's like this feels like a typical budget for a Pixar movie. This is maybe I was reading that this is a not a typical opening weekend, but comparable to the last movie it's comparable to was Coco,
Coco.
I think.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
So this feels like maybe an indication that Pixar is returning to form, returning to its glory. So that's really interesting to me. I was seeing those news articles and it's like, huh, where does this move the needle? What did you think about the budget? I know you had predictions, and
Yeah.
did this exceed it?
Um, it did to me. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think the whole Pixar thing is this, constant pendulum of like Pixar's over, Pixar's back,
Yeah,
Pixar's over.
right.
And I think Elio did a lot of damage to the brand during
Mm,
that time. And people thought, oh, this is the worst it's ever been.
yes.
It's done. But then you had films like Elemental, which, started soft, but then grew
Mm-hmm.
longer than expected with a smaller drop off per week because it was a really great film and it had a lot of word of mouth. So I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to compare this closer to Elemental Plus because the opening weekend's stronger
Mm,
and the word of mouth is going to carry it longer. So I personally think it's got some pretty strong legs.
mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to go pretty well. So having said that, let's actually talk about our feelings on the film. So, what did you
Mm-hmm.
think of Hoppers?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was ready to hate it because I really did not like the trailers. And after having watched the movie, the trailers are such a disservice to the movie. But at the same time, having watched the movie and not giving any spoilers away, I don't know how you would have showcased the best parts of the movie and what made it good in a trailer without, spoiling everything. And so now, again, I was going in ready to dislike this movie, and I left feeling very happy about it. And to not give anything away, and what I said before, it really feels like Pixar's return to form. You have the the foundation of a good, sweet story, a message everybody can get behind, layered with simple comedy, heartfelt characters, and they really lean into the weird and wacky. They go really weird and it's funny. And overall, when I left, it felt very much the old adage, keep it simple, stupid. And that's what I loved about this movie a lot. I think it did that really, really well. What about you?
Well, I really agree, but I have some different nuance to it is, and I think what Daniel Chung did with this film, especially as coming from like the We Bare Bears world,
Mm-hmm.
is he told you a story you weren't expecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think once your butt is in the seat, that's a delightful experience. But
Yes.
as we'll talk about a little bit more, and as you already hinted to, the marketing is very complicated because if you explain the twist, if you let the audience know the surprise in the marketing, it won't actually allow you to enjoy it as much in the experience of the film.
Mm-hmm.
So we're left with this quandary. Do we have to market what is the film not really about because we don't want to spoil it? Or do we spoil it and then let people enjoy it with a little bit of a secondary feeling there? Now, I remember back
Right.
in Thor Ragnarok, director Taika Waititi was very upset that they used the Hulk smashing through the stadium in the trailer because
Mm,
it spoils the
like,
surprise of that film. Now we all
he's
were
my
kind of
friend from
okay with it.
work.
He's my
Yeah.
friend from work, like, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
spoil it right there, and like you don't get to enjoy that moment as much in the film. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's tough. But generally though, I really, really enjoyed it. I think kind of what you said. I think it's finally a cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
think animation is an art form that we like to always, especially us in the biz, producers and writers and directors, we like to, it's a medium. It can do anything. You can have horror, you can have drama, you can have adult stuff and kid stuff. It's not just a cartoon, but this is really a cartoon. And I think it
Yes.
was kind
A
of nice to
hundred
kind
percent.
of return back to bread and butter and have a cartoon just as wacky.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure you experienced this too, but there were so many times we've both worked in animation a good amount. There's a lot of times we've worked in animation and we have gotten the note from, an executive, showrunner, what have you, where they say, well, where that doesn't logically make sense. This character can't just pull out a device from their pocket, or where in the house are they? And it's exactly what you said of, why? Who cares? This is a cartoon. It doesn't matter. Wile E.
Yeah, Bugs
Coyote
Bunny
can
pulls out a banjo and
yeah,
starts singing, and
yeah,
like
yeah. Like
you suddenly
Roadrunner
a
will pull out
drag.
a hole from his little bird pocket and throw it against the wall. Like it's like, and audiences and kids are smart enough to know that we're watching a cartoon. We just can sit back and enjoy the ride, and that is exactly what it was. There were so many parts in this movie that was very. We're not going to question it because we know we're watching a cartoon. We don't need like over explanation of how why certain creatures appear. We
Right,
just it's
right,
a
right.
cartoon. Sit back and
Yeah.
enjoy the weirdness of it. Yeah, totally.
Okay,
And
so
I miss that a lot.
I miss it too, and I thought it was a nice return to form. So let's enter spoiler territory. So I'm going to put a big warning
Mm,
here from here on out for the story section. We're going into spoiler territory. So if you have
yes.
not seen Hoppers, stop watching, go see Hoppers, and come back. But let's have a spoiler filled conversation. So,
And I
what
would
do you
even
think?
say that this is one of those times where it does not behoove you to watch no spoilers before watching the movie, because I'm one of those people that always read spoilers before. Don't do that. So
Don't do
read
it. Don't do it.
the don't do it.
Okay, your spoiler filled version of the story. Tell me, what do you think?
I loved it. Man, that the little crowns on all of the creatures' heads, and that being an example of don't think too hard about it. How does it stay on? Who cares? Beaver has a comb over. Who cares? Seagulls pulling the shark out of the water to go in a car chase. Who cares?
That to me was like they
Yeah.
pushed it so far, having a
Yeah.
giant great whale, great white
I
shark
loved it
be carried by
so much.
seagulls. I just never even questioned it. I just giggled.
Right. Right. I was laughing so hard. It felt like that was a joke that was so good in the sense of like there are fart jokes that are oh, kids are dumb. Here's a fart joke. Then there's like everybody's going to love this because it's just so ridiculous. You're not going to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
everyone in the theater is going to be laughing. This is ridiculous. This is all ages are going to think this is weird and strange. And
Mm-hmm. Yep.
it was so great.
L-
I
let's go ahead. Let's go a
yeah,
step
yeah.
deeper because I think we could definitely go on and on about the comedy, but let's go
Mhm.
into the themes a little bit because I think they did a really good job with a couple of very delicate themes that I was really surprised they handled. So, death,
Mm, yep.
environmentalism, and the nature of the goodness of a person. So let's talk about those
Yes.
themes. 'Cause I'm very interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely want to go with start off with the good in people because it's everything is so difficult and terrible right now. And I thought the way it handled the theme of there's a bit of good in everybody was super fascinating to me. And I left being very satisfied with it, especially
But
knowing
hold
that the
on,
target demo's kids. Yeah.
hold on. What's really interesting is that you have to believe there's good in everybody, but not everybody it has good inside of them, which I thought was
Right.
like what a tightrope. I mean, they
Yeah. And
really got it.
100%. And I think the way that Mabel answers Mayor Jerry was the perfect way to handle that. Because I'm a very cynical person. And the way she answered it was, I think, just a stroke of genius in writing and in storytelling. He asked, she says, everybody's got good in them. He says, you don't actually believe that. And she says, but wouldn't it be nice to? And that really hit hard. It's like, that's a great response. That is a really great response. And that, I hope that a lot of kids, adults and kids, leave with that in that scene, feeling like, oh my gosh, this movie has so many layers and has emotional depth. That really
I
spoke
was
to me. I thought
touched.
that was great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
touched because like, there was almost like this like gradated scale, which is like you have people who are benevolent and pure and uncorruptible, like the grandmother, right? And then over
Hmm.
here you have like super evil, impossible to ever be redeemed, like the butterfly queen and her son, right? And then you
Yeah.
move into the which
Hmm.
is, here's mayor candidate Jerry, right?
Hmm.
Who is mostly bad but has some good within him, right?
Right,
And then you
right,
have
right.
the professors who are like mostly good but just have a little bad in them. And
Right,
then you
yeah.
get to Mabel in the center trying to go back and forth between this worldview when there are people that are
Hmm.
graded scales on both sides. So wow, I was
Hmm.
so impressed with that because when it
Yeah.
comes to story development, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, I always tell people, you have your theme of the film, you have your main protagonist, you have kind of their main moral issue, what's the question of the film, and then you want to stack both sides with the positive and negative of that argument so that
Hmm.
everything aligns to the theme. And they just do such a great, simple job of like, what is Mabel's big question? Do
Hmm.
are do people have good in them even when they seem to be the worst? And what can I do about it? What can I
Right.
really do about it?
Right, right, and that's another theme that they touched on that I also really liked when Mabel she has her moment where she's talking to herself of everything I try to help, but it seems to get worse, which at first felt a little bit, yes, we've heard this before, but they
Yep.
take it another step of I just want to make the world a better place, and I feel like everything I do doesn't matter, which again is such a strong message at a time when we're all sort of feeling that way, and how they
Yeah.
handled it was just so pure and great, and
Yeah.
like
And
it
timely.
is and timely, and it does
Hmm.
feel like old Pixar. I don't want to say old Pixar, but it does feel like old Pixar, where you are
Pixar
leaving with
Prime.
Pixar Prime, peak Pixar.
Yeah. Peak Pixar. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, where these lessons do really hit home, and the theater's dead quiet at these parts because that message is resonating with everyone from different age groups. It did
Yeah.
it so
Yeah.
well.
You
Yeah,
know, I
peak
was so,
Pixar.
so let's. I agree. Yay, Pixar. So let's move on to death. I think what's interesting about death is you have a couple of conversations going on. So there's a little bit of wild robot in here, which is like
Mm.
the natural order of things, and but like using squish and squash as the word for
Yeah.
death, I thought was really funny. Having a
We thought
couple
about that
characters
too.
just
Yeah.
get. Yeah, just a couple characters getting axed really like bam, bam, and then like a key character just getting gruesomely
Right.
squished and wiped on a wall. I was like,
Yeah.
this is third grader logic. Like it was so
Right.
funny.
Right.
But I was like, they're pulling it off.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then there's the grandma, which is like, I was like, okay, here we are up again. But I feel like
Mhm.
they spared us a little bit. It could have been like, because whenever they were doing the montage, I was like, oh, you're going to give it to me again. Don't do up to me
Yeah,
again.
right. She won't
But
be
they were
here for
good.
very long. Don't get used to her.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I think they. So, what do you think about how the film handled death?
Thought it was great. Again, it was like, yes, we can predict, it's a Pixar movie, that the death of a relative is going to propel the main character forward, going to be the main fuel for her fire. And then but then yeah, the death of the queen, the
The
queen
Queen Butterfly.
insect, being so sudden, and then punctuated, both deaths, like the death of her son, both deaths being punctuated by comedy, was really like, whoa, like slingshot from something really meaningful. But then they were both fuel for their characters.
Yes, yes,
Their characters' motivations, which was pretty funny.
yeah, really
I
well
couldn't
done.
believe they
Okay,
did
so
that. The whole theater was just like a big gasp.
yeah, that's right, that's right. Okay, so last
Yeah.
theme, environmentalism, I think would have been very easy to be heavy-handed. I
Mm.
thought they balanced it well. It didn't bother me too much. What do you think?
Yeah, I almost feel like while environmentalism was, as you watch it on a surface level, very much the center stage of the message, I think that maybe older audiences are going to leave with environmentalism maybe being like the last thing that they're thinking of, just because that there's so much more of that there's good in everybody, and that every single person can make a difference no matter how small, is it extends to environmentalism and
Right.
more.
Oh,
So
well
I
said.
but I do think kids will probably, at face value, think about the environment, and
Yeah, well said. I mean, I
that's
think
important as well.
it's about as heavy as like the Lorax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is like it's
yeah.
still a character story, but you realize that the setting is a main issue, but it wasn't too heavy-handed. I was waiting for it to get too heavy-handed, and it just pulled back, but I did love
Yeah.
this idea of quietness and meditation and just listening is like a way to calm
Mm-hmm.
your anger. I just thought that was
Right,
such a great
right.
message to like if there's a kid who's like, I'm mad, I just want to listen to nature to feel better. I'll be like, oh, they really did something great here. So okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's
Mm-hmm.
move on. I want to talk about the marketing of both films. So let's talk about Hoppers and Goat. I want to give a big shout out to Nick Cabana, who is one of the co-creators of Claynosaurus and also the co-founder of Heboo. He really called me out on LinkedIn. He's the one who told me how
Yeah.
incredible the marketing for Hoppers was on TikTok
Mm-hmm.
and the virality of that film, which he believes is a stroke of genius from Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Goat, which seems to have standard, high quality, traditional marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, as someone who's chronically on TikTok, I was following the timeline of the lizard, the meme that came out, and that was a very popular reaction image that was used in a lot of comments. I was seeing this lizard all the time. People my age who are not chronically on TikTok were also saying they saw this lizard but had no idea where it was from. So there's also a bit of a, you made a meme, but if you can't connect it with something, do we know? Is it successful? Who knows? It's a meme.
Mm.
Memes are lightning in a bottle. But I do think that, and I think we talked about this when we first watched Goat together, was the trailer for Hoppers, was that it felt like, similar to Goat, this high production value trailer, but it was formulaic. It showcased very, maybe not their most successful jokes, and then slapped on a popular pop song with some relation that made it feel very frenetic. But I don't think that the trailers that were circulating were great in succeeding on what telling us what the movie was about. And the reason I ultimately went to go see it was because I was on TikTok and a lot of people were saying that it was a lot better than they thought it would be. So
Wow.
that ultimately got me into the theater, and
And how much do
I
you
was
think is
I was
manufactured and how much do
influenced.
you think is
Mm-hmm.
authentic?
That's a good point. There was another part of me where, as a, just a grouchy moviegoer, was how much are Pixar paying these people to say these things? I gotta go see it for myself. So it became we're getting, this was a trailer that was, every time I saw the trailer on TikTok on my For You page, the comments were very grouchy, the comments were very negative, and then slingshotting to the other side of reviewers on TikTok saying it was very good was, well, now I got to see for myself. And that's what got me in the theaters.
Mm-hmm,
So, what
mm-hmm.
did you think about the marketing? How did it work for you?
Well, I think I really realized my age when the only marketing I absorbed for both films was traditional trailer advertising. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
relatively new to TikTok. I'm on social media platforms like YouTube and Instagram, but I wasn't fed the kind of meme culture at the same veracity as, people on TikTok are. And, I kind of watched Goat's trailer and I watched Hopper's trailer. Just in the absolute, I was like more interested in Goat, you
Mm.
know, because
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think,
Likewise. Yeah.
Hopper's really just highlighted the worst parts of the film and,
It
didn't
really
give me
does.
anything really new to want to absorb. But then now having seen it, I see the tightrope they had to walk of like
Mm-hmm.
traditionally marketing what it is without spoiling what it is, versus Goat. So ultimately, I think I feel very much my eyes opened to
Mm-hmm.
the value of social media marketing, the value of getting the audience involved with your film and filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, I think Goat did not do a good job of letting the audience participate. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like they are just the really cool kids and they're just telling you how cool they are, right?
Right. 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 Right.
Whereas Hoppers has just the right amount of derp and they opened up the window enough to let you in and let you play with the derp, you know? And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that audience participation and marketing is like an essentially important idea for marketing something to this generation. So I learned a bit, and it really
Mm-hmm.
made me think a lot about franchises, about marketing, about IP, and how the social involvement of the audience is so essential to get their buy-in. So that's my feeling.
Yeah, and this is something I love to talk about TikTok virality, marketing. It has just come such a long way from when we were the target audience to now that Gen Zers and Gen Alpha are the target audience. They respond to marketing in such a different way, and marketing strategies are very different for them than it is for us. These trailers are not going to win any younger people over, but a meme might. And, without launching into a whole hour conversation, because I love to talk about it, it is, I think why the meme worked better is because it was organic. When it
Mm.
is organic, when it is not trying too hard and it just comes off as silly, is when it works successfully. Somebody at Disney who put out The Lizard was thinking right, like, had that right mindset. So I think that's why it probably made the rounds. I was seeing it for, how long is the trend these days? For 2 weeks.
Whoa, that's forever.
2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's wrap this up with a couple of things. One, who do you think wins? and it doesn't have to just be financial. It could be on a couple of
Hmm.
big triggers or a couple of big, qualitative factors. And what's the big picture here after watching both these films? So you go first.
Yeah, I think financially it's leaning towards that Hoppers is going to come out in the dollar amount. However, story wise, this is a tough one. I was thinking a lot about is one a better story? Is one a better story? It's hard because I think they're just different stories. I do think Hopper succeeds better in the comedy sense, in that gut punch, that emotional gut punch, but Goat was this feel good underdog sports story that we just haven't had in a while that I also enjoyed, but on a different level. And overall, if I'm thinking about it though, it it feels like these two movies are successful, and it's successful in their own right. They're probably going to hit their, they made back their money, but nobody's going out to buy Goat Hoppers merch. Nobody's bootlegging this stuff. It feels like it is that both are probably a movies that are doing well and have been talked about in a moment in time, but may not have lasting effects on the audience or the industry.
Yeah.
And
Okay. That's very well
I'm
said.
wondering if you, yeah, I'm wondering if you feel the same way.
Some of it, yeah, but some of it is different. I
Mm-hmm.
think when I think about both films, I think the first thing that's really interesting is neither film is what was promised to you. And I think that's actually a positive thing because,
Yeah,
GOAT
agreed.
is less about GOAT. It's more actually about Jet Fillmore, the Black Panther character. Now what I think was the nice surprise of GOAT is the two-hander of the older player and the younger player.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I enjoyed that, and actually, I like the Jet Fillmore story arc better than I like the Goat story arc. Because the Goat one is
Agreed.
unsurprising to me, but the Jet Fillmore one is an interesting redemption story. So I got a lot of fulfillment about that. And then with Hoppers, I think I came in with such lower expectations like yourself, and it really overperformed for me from story and comedy, clinical precision of theme, of wackiness, and then it was action and comedy and a little bit deep at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and I left feeling like I had a full meal of it all. um I think
Mm-hmm.
ultimately though, Hoppers is kind of the clear winner for a couple
Mm-hmm.
reasons. As much as I like Goat, as much as I like the style, as much as I like the two-hander, there's part of me that says this is Sony doing a little repetition. It wasn't necessarily the breakout, completely new, mind-blowing thing that Spider-Verse and K-pop Demon Hunters were. Goat feels a
Mm-hmm.
little
Yeah.
second fiddle to Spider-Verse and Space Jam. It's kind of just like
Yeah.
it's great, it's good, but is it paradigm shifting? It's not,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about Goat is, and I've had this problem a lot with animation that I've worked on over the years, which is when you are nuanced and cool and interesting and asymmetrical, you're not cute and you're not cool. You're kind of
Mm-hmm.
like everything in the middle. And artists love that, animation people love that, designers love that. Kids don't really know how to deal
Mm-hmm.
with that complex silhouette. When
Right.
you're like under 9 or under 8, or it's like you like stuff that is really cool, really awesome, or you like stuff that's really cute and really adorable. And Goat is just complex and
Mm-hmm.
interesting, and it's a very full frame, so it's kind of like an artist's movie or an animator's movie or director's movie, so it takes like a higher level of appreciation to get involved. And the same thing I
Right.
feel
Right.
with the dialogue pace and the urban style of it and kind of the hangoutness of it. Story, as we talked about before, is not really fast. The dialogue and scenes are fast, but the plot kind of is drifty, right?
Yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah.
you know, Hoppers is this really organized, really structured story, and it's got all the space to like move around, and all the plot points are very clearly delineated. You always know the physical stakes, you always know the emotional stakes, you always know what's right on the corner. And I found myself edge of my seat the whole film because I was along for the ride, right? And
Right.
then
There
it is
was. Mhm.
clearly cute.
Yeah.
It's
It's
clearly
super cute.
you're going for the ahs, you're going for the ha-has, so the emotional value is very clear as opposed to nuanced and interesting for Goat. So I think, that's why I think Hoppers is the winner. Now, in terms of the big picture, as you and I talked about, this is not going to be K-pop Demon Hunters. None of these
Hmm.
films are going to be the next Minions films. We're not looking at franchises like Toy Story or Moana. These both feel kind of come and go, and I
Hmm.
both think they lack the design specificity and the design DNA to be big merchandise sales things. So in the big
Hmm.
picture, I don't think any of these accelerate or change the direction of the animation industry. They maintain status quo on both
Hmm.
sides. At the very best, I think Hoppers recovers some lost, reputation
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Pixar.
Lost confidence in Pixar.
Yeah, lost
Yeah. Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah.
So it's like, but
Hmm.
Sony goes down a bit. I feel like this makes Pixar go
Mm.
up and this makes Sony go down. So,
Hmm.
just 5 months ago, we were here saying Sony rules K-pop Demon Hunters and Pixar sucks, Elio. And now it's
Right.
like we're like, oh, Hoppers is better than
Yeah.
Goat.
Yeah,
So it's
I
like,
literally have a video where I'm just like, I think Disney's losing their grasp, and I think
that's right.
Sony is here like because of K-pop Demon Hunters, and
That's right.
they, yeah, and just what you were saying about like Pixar and their level of storytelling. This movie also reminds you they do employ the best of the best there. They have some of the best storytellers and storyboard artists, writers, directors, production, what have you. And it reminds you that yeah, they're there. And
Yeah.
they're veterans of the industry. They're able to get the best fresh new talent, and they're good at what they do. Not that they don't exist elsewhere, but especially concentrated in within Disney and within Pixar,
Mm.
they hire the best of the best, and it showed
But
in this movie.
they do hire the best storytellers, they hire the best directors team but like part of me is going like, and I kind of hate myself for saying this,
Hmm.
but it could have used a little bit of Illumination's touch of just like pushing some character design into the like,
Mm.
I want to buy the cute ants. I want to buy the silly
Yeah,
turtles.
yeah,
I just feel like they could have gone like a little further with the crowns, with the costuming, so that you felt like it's not just a butterfly with a tiny crown. It's not just like a frog with a tiny crown. It's like a very specific ownable design where it's just good design as opposed to like merchandisable design. And it's a little mercenary,
yeah.
but I feel like we
It's
need that right now.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because today I was on Instagram and I saw one of their, I'm not going to know their name, but they showed off a 2D concept piece that, like animated concept that they did for Hoppers. And it was Mabel and George swimming along a river, and then the sky, the
Oh, I
river is
saw that.
reflected in the sky.
That
And
little
it's
tweet.
like,
Yeah.
that that could have
Yes.
sold a lot of plushies. Like I hate that we think that
Yes.
way, but like
Yeah.
at first you're like, wow, that is so beautiful. That would have been so cute to see. And then the other side being like, that would have really revitalized the brand if that
Yeah.
movie was made to look like that. I would have bought.
Mm-hmm.
I do not like plushies, as I say, with things behind me. But like, I would have gone out to buy a King Beaver plushie because it was just so cute. So I agree. I wish there was a bit of a touch of like, well, what could sell?
Yeah, and then on the goat side, it's kind of like no one's gonna buy a tattered white hoodie of a skinny little goat who stands on his back legs holding a basketball. Like no one's gonna
Right.
buy that, And it's great for
Right, right,
story, but
right.
like if we're
Hmm.
thinking about franchise and we're thinking about whatever will bring the animation industry back, I think for a little while we've got to turn all the dials up so that every
Yeah,
part of the industry
yeah.
earns enough money to start taking the bigger artistic risks again. I mean, that's
Hmm.
just me being a worried dad.
Right, right. And I think that's an interesting perspective because a lot of the times when you talk to maybe people who are coming into the industry, who are new or students or pretty fresh, they're very like, well, it should be about art and what appeals to people. It's like, but what's also important is proving to these business people that animation is overall marketable. There is an audience. People want this. At the same time, they buy a lot of Minions merch too. Yay, great. So
That's right.
it's
That's right.
unfortunately the animation business, it goes hand in hand. It's got to make money if you
I mean,
want
it
more
got there, and
animation.
that's what earned us the right to do these artistic pieces. And artistic
Right,
pieces are
right,
not going to be
right,
the ones that earn the most box office. When you're lucky, it's both, but it's the rare occasion. So,
right. For sure,
all right.
for sure. Yeah.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Jackie, for reviewing both Goat and Hoppers. I think we have clearly decided that Hoppers is the winner. Goat has a lot of
Hmm.
merit, but I think they're really fun films to watch. And guess what's coming up
Mhm.
next? Super Mario Galaxy.
That's
It's gonna
right.
destroy all of them.
That's
Look, let's just say it right now. There's no
right.
contest. It's gonna
Oh
destroy all of them.
no, it's so
Yeah.
true because I was
Yeah.
I was very lukewarm about the first Mario, but I will be sad because Galaxy is one of my favorites. And they showed that
Yeah, it's
ocean
gonna
world and I
be.
was like, I'm there. I guess I'm there.
Yeah, we're
That's
all gonna be
right.
there. I will see you in that crowded theater. Yeah.
That
Well,
sounds
with that,
good.
thank you very much, Jackie. Good seeing you.
Good to be
See
here
y'all.
again. Good seeing you.
All right, see everyone in the next one. Okay,
Bye.
so just hang for a second. It's gonna go. We went long, but it's fine.
Mhm.
So I think oh, actually let me stop it. Hold on, let me stop.